Hey, hey, happy Saturday, everyone. I am super excited. We are on day 13 of our equitable grading in STEM. This is a 30-day going live event that I'm hosting, and I'm going through basically some of the strategies, some of the reflections that we should all do as educators as we work to create more equitable spaces within our classroom for our students. And so this is a blow up of chapter 8 from my book, Equity Builds Expertise: 9 Strategies for STEM Teachers to Reach All Students. And this chapter really focuses on strategy 8, which is implementing equitable grading. So, day 13. Woo. Day 13 focuses on homework policies. And I'm going to start, as I usually start, with a quote, but I might have a little bit more to say at the beginning. But right now, I'm going to start with this quote. An inclusive classroom starts with an open mind. An inclusive classroom starts with an open mind. That author's anonymous, but I'm going to tell you that's a great quote to start with, because homework policies, this is one of the aspects of equitable grading, one of the components that people find to be most challenging, right? Because there's so many things that go into our decision around how we grade homework and why we grade homework. So, to start off with, I wanted to say that homework is one of the most common grading categories that teachers have, and unfortunately, is one of the most inequitable grading categories, right? When we assign homework outside, or assign work, I should say, outside of the classroom, we're making several assumptions, right? We're assuming that students may have a quiet space to do it. For some assignments, we're assuming that they have internet access. For some assignments, we're assuming that they have family support. And for some students, we're also assuming that they have time. Those assumptions aren't always true. Yet, we are assessing students and grading them on homework with those assumptions in mind. Okay. So, what I want us to do for a reflection prompt on this day, the reflection is around: what are the assumptions that underline your homework expectations? I would love, as your action, for you to just re examine one homework practice and then think about how you might redesign it to reduce some of those barriers, right? So, for example, I used to assume that every student had reliable internet. Now, I do provide, or would provide, an offline option, like using a printed resource or offering in class homework sessions. But those are things that you need to consider, right? So that students without internet access, so that they don't start at a disadvantage already. So, here are some questions and some things that you should think about with each of the assignments, right? So, one, does it require the internet? Two, does it require specific supplies, right? Like poster board or um, home markers, things that maybe students either don't have access to readily, or if they have um, someone who might be able to get it, maybe they can't get it in time to do that assignment, right? There's several layers of assumptions here. Three, does it assume family support? Is it something, and I know there's several assignments that we know and several strategies that we know when it comes to students internalizing content. It always works better when you have family support, or someone who you can explain it to, someone who you can talk about it with, right? And some of the ways around it is by allowing students to talk and helping students to even help another member, either of the family or someone within their support network, to say, hey, tell me what you learned today. Or, hey, let me explain to you what I learned today. I know that there's some aspects of it you may not understand because I've had several days in this unit already, but let me explain it to you anyway. That is going to help to ingrain some of that information in students' minds, right? And then the fourth thing to think about here is, can students complete it at school if needed? So, where is there room for students to complete it at school? When we think about homework, one of the things that I consider homework to be is the practice. And if it is the practice, then we may want to reconsider how we're grading that. In the book, I tell the story of how my twins turned 17 this past year in February, and they were able to get their driver's license. However, when they were 16, they took driver's ed and they got their learner's permit. And for an entire year, they engaged in practice around driving. Now, how disappointing would that be if they went into the final assessment of their driving test, with all the dings from all the mistakes that they had made throughout that year that they were practicing? And so I see homework in a similar way. Homework should be the practice. And I know some of us do a lot of that practice in the way of in class, a practice and feedback that I do, we do, you do. There are a bunch of strategies that teachers use within the classroom to give students practice. Well, homework can be another space for that. And if that is the case, if we are delving out zeros for missed practice, and we care about whether students get the practice, where is the incentive for them to actually do that assignment? They've already received the zero on it. Why should I dedicate more time to that practice? And then we see how that plays out, right? Because now when they have the formative assessment, the summative assessment, we're seeing that they may not have mastered a particular skill. Well, they never got the feedback. They never got the practice they actually needed to be successful. Today's reflection challenges the hidden assumptions behind our practices, right? And when homework becomes accessible, grades better reflect student effort, their learning, and not some odd privilege or some other assumption, some other external factor. That's a lot. I'm going to pause there so that we can really reflect on some of the strategies, some of the ideas, some of the things that we are including in our homework grades. And I want us to all keep in mind that every grade tells a story. So let's make it one worth telling. All right. I hope you have a great rest of the day to your Saturday. And tune in tomorrow when we'll continue our conversation around equitable grading. All right.